Buckingham Palace. A name synonymous with tradition, duty, and unwavering decorum. But behind those gilded gates, a viper's nest of ambition and betrayal lurked, ready to strike at the heart of the monarch. The target? Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, a woman admired for her integrity and sharp intellect. Her crime? Threatening the established order, daring to challenge the shadowy financial practices that had long lined the pockets of a select few. It all started with a whisper. A rumor carefully planted and meticulously cultivated that the Duchess was abusing her financial authority. The accusation, shocking in its audacity, sent tremors through the palace. Sophie, the very embodiment of discretion and meticulousness, accused of financial impropriety? It seemed impossible. Yet the seeds of doubt had been sown, and they began to sprout with alarming speed. The timing was exquisite, or rather, diabolically calculated. Just days before the bombshell announcement, Queen Camilla had presided over a series of closed-door meetings concerning the restructuring of royal budgets. Meetings where her influence, usually subtle, was wielded with unusual force. Was this merely a coincidence, or was something far more sinister at play? In the hushed corners of palace corridors, whispers turned into accusations. Some advisors, their voices barely audible above the rustle of silk gowns and the click of polished shoes, dared to suggest that Sophie had been deliberately set up, that someone, driven by ambition and a thirst for power, had expertly maneuvered her into the line of fire. Meanwhile, at Kensington Palace, Prince William, heir to the throne, watched the unfolding drama with growing unease. Publicly, he maintained a neutral stance, careful not to show any sign of bias. But behind closed doors, he had quietly ordered a fresh examination of the original documents. Was it possible, he wondered, that Sophie was truly guilty? Or was she the victim of a ruthless power play? William, known for his innate sense of fairness, found himself torn. He trusted Sophie implicitly. He admired her dedication to transparency and her unwavering commitment to doing what was right. But he also understood the complexities of the monarchy, the delicate balance of power, and the ever-present threat of scandal. The pressure mounted. The whispers grew louder. The evidence, seemingly irrefutable, painted a damning picture. Sophie, it appeared, had been using her position to funnel funds towards her own projects, enriching herself at the expense of the crown. But something didn't sit right with William. A nagging feeling, a persistent doubt that refused to be silenced. He couldn't shake the sense that Sophie was being framed, that she was caught in a trap far more elaborate and dangerous than she could possibly imagine. He knew he had to act. He couldn't stand idly by while Sophie's reputation was destroyed and the monarchy teetered on the brink of crisis. But he also knew that he had to tread carefully. One wrong move could have devastating consequences, not only for Sophie but for the entire royal family. And so Prince William embarked on a clandestine investigation, a perilous journey into the heart of palace intrigue. He would have to navigate a treacherous landscape of secrets and lies, where loyalty was a rare commodity and ambition knew no bounds. He would have to rely on his instincts, his judgment, and his unwavering determination to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The fate of Sophie, and perhaps the monarchy itself, rested on his shoulders. The initial suspension was a masterstroke of manipulation. With Sophie silenced and under investigation, Camilla's control tightened. The palace held its breath, waiting to see which way William would jump. Would he side with his aunt, a known quantity, a pillar of the old guard, or would he risk everything to defend a woman who, despite her impeccable reputation, now stood accused of serious crimes? That question hung in the air, thick and heavy, as William navigated the treacherous corridors of power. Every conversation, every meeting was a test, a probe designed to gauge his allegiance. And all the while, the evidence continued to mount against Sophie. But William couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The numbers, the documents, they all told a damning story. But they didn't feel right. They lacked the human element, the subtle nuances that would have betrayed Sophie's true intentions. They were too clean, too perfect. He knew he was walking a tightrope. One wrong step could plunge the monarchy into chaos. But he couldn't ignore his gut. He had to trust his instincts, even if it meant going against the advice of his most trusted advisors. So he began to dig. Quietly, discreetly, he started to unravel the threads of the conspiracy. He pored over the original documents, searching for inconsistencies, for anything that might betray a hidden hand. He spoke to the palace staff, the servants, the clerks, the people who saw everything but were rarely heard. And then he found it, a rogue access log buried deep in the master budget file, a single fleeting trace of unauthorized activity. It was a tiny detail, easily overlooked. But to William, it was a beacon in the darkness. The trace proved that someone had tampered with the documents before they were ever handed to Sophie. Someone had deliberately altered the numbers, manipulated the clauses, and set her up to take the fall. In that moment, everything changed. The fog of doubt that had clouded William's judgment lifted, replaced by a burning sense of righteous anger. He knew now that Sophie was innocent, that she had been the victim of a ruthless and elaborate scheme. And he knew what he had to do. He had to expose the truth, no matter the cost. He had to bring the conspirators to justice, even if it meant turning against his own family. It was a dangerous game, one that could shatter the monarchy. But William was no longer a hesitant overseer. He was a man on a mission, driven by a fierce determination to protect the woman he trusted and to defend the institution he had sworn to uphold. The hunt was on. The weight of the crown suddenly felt different. It wasn't just about tradition and ceremony. It was about protecting the very soul of the monarchy from those who would exploit it for their own gain. He knew he couldn't trust the usual channels. The official investigators, the seasoned courtiers, they were all potentially compromised. Camilla's influence ran deep, and he had no idea who was truly loyal to the crown and who was merely playing a part in her elaborate game. So he turned to the outsiders, the ones who operated on the fringes of the royal court. The former intelligence officers, the forensic accountants, the tech experts who knew how to navigate the digital shadows. He assembled a team of discreet professionals, individuals with impeccable reputations, and a burning desire for justice. Their investigation was a delicate dance. They had to gather evidence without raising suspicion, to uncover the truth without alerting Camilla and her inner circle. They worked in secret, meeting in clandestine locations, communicating through encrypted channels. Each new revelation was a punch to the gut. The extent of Camilla's network was staggering. For decades, she had been quietly planting allies in key positions, grooming them, rewarding them, and using them to advance her own agenda. The attack on Sophie was just the latest move in a decades-long power grab. Camilla had seen Sophie as a threat, a force for transparency that could expose her illicit activities. So, she had orchestrated a carefully crafted smear campaign designed to destroy Sophie's reputation and remove her from the board. William felt a surge of anger, not just at Camilla, but at himself. He had been so focused on maintaining stability, on preserving the traditions of the monarchy, that he had failed to see the rot that was festering beneath the surface. He vowed to make amends. He would expose Camilla's conspiracy, restore Sophie's honor, and reform the monarchy from the inside out. But he knew it wouldn't be easy. Camilla was a formidable opponent, a master strategist who had spent her entire life honing her skills. She wouldn't go down without a fight. The final showdown took place in the White Drawing Room, the very same room where Sophie had been publicly humiliated. The atmosphere was electric. Every member of the royal council was present, their faces etched with a mixture of apprehension and morbid curiosity. Camilla sat at the head of the table, her composure unwavering. She radiated an aura of regal defiance, as if she still believed she could outmaneuver William and escape the consequences of her actions. William presented his evidence piece by piece. The rogue access logs, the manipulated documents, the secret bank accounts, he laid it all bare, exposing Camilla's conspiracy for the world to see. The silence in the room was deafening. The council members stared at Camilla in disbelief, their faces slowly turning from shock to disgust. They had been deceived, manipulated, and used as pawns in her twisted game. Camilla finally broke her silence. She denied everything, dismissing the evidence as fabrications and lies. She accused William of treachery, of turning against his own family. But her words rang hollow. The evidence was irrefutable. Even her most loyal allies began to waver. Then David, the young technician who had discovered the rogue access log, stepped forward. He testified about the order he had received to erase the evidence, confirming William's accusations. That was the final nail in the coffin. The council members turned against Camilla, their faces filled with contempt. They stripped her of her titles, her privileges, and her position in the royal family. She was banished from the palace, exiled from the kingdom she had so desperately tried to control. As she walked out of the White Drawing Room, her head held high, William couldn't help but feel a sense of pity for her. She had been consumed by ambition, blinded by power, and ultimately destroyed by her own hubris. But he knew that her departure was just the beginning. The monarchy was still vulnerable, the rot ran deep, and he had a lot of work to do to restore it to its former glory.